My headlamp went off. My water froze. You know, I used to be second last in athletics, and somebody else used to be number last. So this is the third part, or part 3 of my video, where I share my experience of climbing Mount Kenya. The first part was about the climb from Cinnamon Gate to Shipton. I've also shared with you my experiences at Shipton's camp. And in this video, I'm going to share with you about the summit night. We began the night march from Shipton's camp to Lenana Point on the 5th of August, 2023 at 2:30 a.m. This was after inspection by our chief guide, who had to make sure we were warmly and appropriately dressed. About 15 minutes after we left camp, my headlamp went off. This was most unexpected. This headlamp was the kind where you charge the battery, and I was very sure I had charged the battery to full capacity the night before. So my advice is, if you are going to hike or climb a mountain, do not use the rechargeable battery. It is better to use the dry cells. So the guide went back to camp to try and borrow a headlamp from me, from one of the guides who are still there, or the porters, or the other climbers. Unfortunately, was not able to get one. And after about another 15 minutes, he came back and he decided to give me his headlamp. Now the guide and I were sharing one headlamp, with him walking in front and myself walking behind him. After about 1 hour of climbing, my water froze and I had no drinking water, yet we still had many hours to go. Again, my guide was very generous. He had carried water in a flask, which he shared with me. A shout out to my guide, Makras Mawira. Thank you so much for being such a great guide and making it possible. After what seemed like an unending climb of stairs that are uneven, we eventually arrived at Harry's Tarn. Harry's Tarn is a small lake at the base of Point Lenana. Please, if you know the difference, tell us in the comments below the difference between a tarn and a lake. At Harry's Tarn, we decided to take a break. It was approaching 7 o'clock, but it was still gray and darkish. The groups that had overtaken us on the trail were already descending, but we decided we needed a break. And we also took breakfast. After about 30 minutes, we resumed our climb. Immediately we resumed our climb, one member of my group felt very tired and unwell, so she decided to take a rest and actually slept for about 20 minutes. When she woke up, we resumed our climb. And at this point, we thought we were very near Point Lenana. We kept going and going, and we were not getting there. It was so near, yet so far. Maybe if you don't know, Point Lenana is so steep that you have to climb it in a zigzag manner. It is for this reason that you can see it, but you cannot get there. Many of the groups that had overtaken us were now coming down, and they bypassed us as we climbed up. The stretch between Harry's Tarn and Point Lenana itself really tested my balance and even my rock climbing ability. Sometimes I look back and say, oh my physical education or PE teacher should have seen me here, scaling the rocks, climbing, and making my way to Point Lenana. You know, I used to be second last in athletics, and somebody else used to be number last, and we are still in touch. But I think today, if you went to the field, I'll not be number last. If you're liking this video, please give it a thumbs up, share, and subscribe. Climbing the last section to Point Lenana was really trying, especially where you have to climb on steel bars that are like a ladder to get to the top. After much struggle, I finally summited at 9:30 a.m. and I remember I cried. Oh, this is the hardest thing I have ever done. It was a mixture of tears of confusion and joy, and even it was unbelievable that I had summited the highest mountain in Kenya and the second highest in Africa. It was a beautiful day. The clouds had cleared and the sky was clear with a very beautiful sunny morning on the horizon. At that time, we did enjoy a second breakfast with no anxiety of what lay ahead of us, as we had accomplished our task, took so many photographs, made new friends, and finally started the descent at 10 a.m. or thereabout. Halfway on our way to base camp, it started snowing. And this is when now things got a bit out of hand. The snow was not heavy, it was more like a drizzle of snow. And this made the ground very slippery. And we started sliding and falling. We fell a few times, but luckily nobody broke any bones or got seriously injured. We arrived at base camp, that is Shipton's camp, at 2:30 p.m. We were so tired, but we are also very happy we had accomplished our mission. At this point, we decided to change our plans and not continue with descending to Old Moses Camp. This was because it was already 2:30. We were so tired. We did not want to risk trekking to Old Moses in the night and maybe meeting wild animals such as elephants on our way down. We decided to spend a second night, and one of the things that still shocks me to this day is that between Shipton's camp and Lenana Point, there is no single toilet of any kind. This journey depending on your speed, takes 6 to 12 hours. So Kenya Wildlife Service, please give us toilets between Lenana Point and Shipton's camp. The second night at Shipton's was very relaxed for me. I had an opportunity to watch the new arrivals, see the anxiety on their face, the solemnness, uncertainty, and it was quite dramatic, especially my neighbors were woken up at 1 a.m. by their guide to wake up, dress, and start the summit march. Well, I could only turn over, continue sleeping until 3 a.m. or thereabout, when we woke up, packed, and had breakfast. Eventually, we left Shipton's camp at 4 a.m., arriving at Old Moses at about 11 a.m. We found that our porters and guides and the chef had already arrived and made for us a sumptuous lunch. Somehow they had managed to get somebody to bring us beef, so we were able to enjoy a consolation lunch before our final descent, which we began at 12 noon. The trek took a bit long, but we were able to reach the main gate, that is Sirimon's Gate, at 3 p.m. And as per protocol, our guide had to check us out and account for everybody who had signed in. Once the checkout was completed, we planted ceremonial trees at Sirimon's Gate. Maybe one of these days I will go back to see how my tree is doing, and thereafter departed for Nairobi. Please continue watching my videos, subscribing, and even liking. See you in the next video.